like all substance abuse, no matter what it is it really can just crush everything in your life. It just can destroy everything.
Agreed.
Tell us, I know that there's some statistics, and those are kind of important, and you said that you do have statewide statistics
Yes,
on alcoholism.
yes, within the state of Florida, the most recent statistics that I've found is that about 3% of the population
Wow.
suffers from some form of alcoholism. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but based off of the population that we have in this state, which is about 19 million, if I'm not mistaken, that's about 500,000 people. So that's 500,000 family members, 500,000 children, 500,000 individuals that could be possibly connected to this and these individuals that are also suffering with the process of substance use.
And we're talking about all ages, from very young children, what is the age you think that they're starting?
Well, with alcohol, most individuals that I've found at this point in my experience working in the field, there tends to be around between the ages of 13 to 14 is when they start to first drink. Now, these individuals at that time aren't necessarily experiencing a lot of the negative consequences that come from alcoholism, but they have the stepping stones that kind of lead to that once they get into adulthood.
Yeah, they like doing it like for partying and feeling whatever they feel. I don't know, what does alcohol make people feel like? Just that
Well,
numb, and they just can play, they just aren't themselves, correct?
true. There tends to be kind of like a social lubricant when they're young. I
Yes.
imagine, I remember when I was a teenager, very social kind of situations can feel very awkward, whether you're talking with a girl or a boy, and it kind of feels just difficult to kind of be yourself. Alcohol can definitely give people the impression that they are more themselves, when in reality, what these children are doing and what the adults, as they grow older, are doing are just numbing a lot of their emotions. So they're coping with that anxiety by kind of trying to push it away, so it feels as if they don't have it. But then the flip side of the consequences of that are, whether it be unable to stay at work, unable to function emotionally as an adult, unable to keep a family. If it becomes a dependence issue as an adult, it has many consequences for many people.
Isn't there a disease of alcoholism too, where some people are almost, they act like allergic to it, and it causes them to not be together? I mean, what is that?
Well, the disease of addiction, as far as the mental health field is concerned, is one we basically see it as this is something that is chronic condition for these individuals. So it's not something that is ever going to go away, in the sense that if they stop using their substances now and remain clean and sober, if they were to ever relapse and start using substances again, the effects on the brain would return, and will return rather quickly. So the effects that you were talking about, as far as like the allergic and kind of almost sickness feeling, tends to come from individuals when they're withdrawing off of substances. Something that's very important for everyone in your audience to understand is that alcohol specifically is one of the few substances that one can die from detoxing from.
Wow. And they do.
So if there is anyone out there that is suffering from substance abuse and has alcohol as their substance of choice, there's definitely a dire need for them to be under medical supervision if they're going to be detoxing off of it.
That's why it's so important to get help, even coming off of any kind of drug. They just say, I know some drugs you're supposed to come off slowly.
Yes, and
so,
alcohol is one of them.
oh, it is.
Alcohol is
Okay.
definitely a substance that, for instance, obviously it depends on the rate of substance use of this person. So if they're drinking, 4 or 5 beers a day versus some of my patients have drank up to a bottle a day of liquor. Based off of that, our medical staff at our facility and at most facilities are judging how long it's going to take and with what medications are going to be needed to help safely detox patients off of substances, because one of the possible consequences of not doing that is a seizure. And a seizure can happen at any point in time and can be very dangerous.
My goodness, you wouldn't even think of that, but that makes sense, because it is a drug. Alcohol is considered a drug, correct? Yeah, so my goodness. So what would parents, the genes, I wanted to talk about genes. What is it, like if a parent's been an alcoholic, does it roll over into the children that want to be that, or is there something in them that drives them to drink?
I can definitely say that there is a genetic component, and I
There
would say
is.
that the research at this point hasn't yet come to determine the full effect of those genetic components and whether or not it skips a generation and so on and so forth. But what I can say is that if there's a loved one that consciously knows that their father or mother or grandfather clearly drank too much, the best way of being able to solve this is just to have an
Stay
honest
away.
conversation. You know, talk with your loved ones about what it is that you experienced growing up or what it was that you experienced if you yourself had a substance abuse issue, and be honest with your loved ones. Obviously, age appropriately, especially if you have a teenager that's 14 or 15 years old. At this point, they probably need to know the dangers that come along with experimenting with substances of any kind, whether they be alcohol or drugs.
How do you recommend a family member talking to their youth about it?
Well, one thing that I would definitely recommend is if there's somebody that you are concerned about, whether it be, especially a young adult, you know, from 15 to like 16 or 17 years old, there is